tonight's big stories. Rice retailers scrambled to comply with the price ceiling, which kicked in today. But at the same time, fresh data showed inflation accelerated 5.3% last month.
Dismissed cop Wilfredo Gonzalez apologizes for drawing his gun on an unarmed cyclist, who, by the way, has finally stepped forward. The two meet face-to-face in a Senate hearing.
And why has there been so much uproar over the Monterrazas de Cebu project? We'll be sitting down with engineer and content creator Slater Young to discuss this latest controversy.
Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Sean Yao.
All right, it's day one of the rice price ceiling across the country. Did you guys buy rice today?
No, I failed to do so.
Pumunta kayo ng palengke today.
Medyo parang nagkakagulo yata eh.
Yes.
Kanina umaga, daming tao.
Exactly.
Nandyan na yung mga pila.
Exactly. So vendors began selling well-milled local rice at 45 pesos per kilo and regular milled rice, local rice, I should say, at 41 pesos per kilo in accordance with the President's executive order.
Throughout the day, consumers flocked, as we mentioned, to the markets to take advantage of the lower prices.
However, the other side to this, as we have discussed previously, if you watched last night, is that retailers are having to sell their remaining stocks at a loss in order to comply with this price cap. Early on, consumers lined up at the Mega Q Mart in Quezon City with a rice price cap in effect starting today. To accommodate more customers, selling of rice was limited to just 2 to 5 kilograms per person, depending on the available stocks. But even with these limitations, rice quickly sold out, with consumers buying several sacks of rice given the lower price point.
Nagulat siyempre. Kapag di ako nakabili ng bigas.
Ano yung sitwasyon ngayon, nanay?
Napakahirap. Napakahirap. Dalawang kilo lang. Ngayon gusto kong bumili ng 5 kilo, hindi ako makabili kasi.
Sinabi po sa kapitbahay namin na bumili na daw ako ng bigas kasi daw po ay nagkakaubusan daw po.
As consumers have money, sellers, on the other hand, have incurred losses. Some are forced to sell their remaining stock rather than letting it go to waste. According to a rice vendor in San Juan, they lose about 100 pesos per sack of rice due to the price cap. Now that's equivalent to 2 pesos a kilo.
Sabi kasi ng City Hall, ma'am, tsaka ng DTI, kailangan may display kami ng 41 tsaka 45 po. Kasi kung hindi kami mag-display, pwede kami pasara.
Rice retailers are now hoping that the government will assist them despite the exhaustion of selling at a loss. But when the Agriculture Department was asked about the concerns of struggling rice retailers, DA Undersecretary Domingo Panganiban had this to say.
Hindi pa naman nalulugi, ngayon pa lang bibili. Alam namin lugi sila. So in effect, gumawa naman ng steps ang ating Pangulo para matulungan ang ating mga maliliit na nagbibili ng bigas.
Question is, were most of the rice retailers able to comply on day one of the price cap? And how soon can they expect to receive aid from the government? Let's bring in Shyla Francisco for the answers. Shyla, what do you have for us?
Sean, during the inspection of the LGUs, along with officials from MMDA, DILG, DTI, and DA, nearly all the shops they visited and inspected in Quezon City and in San Juan City markets had displayed the imposed price cap. Adding to what was said earlier, Agriculture Senior Undersecretary Domingo Panganiban says the government will provide 15,000 pesos per retailer nationwide that will be sourced from the funds of the DSWD. They target to release this week. The local government is also ironing out details of possible discounts and waiving of rental fees. At present, the DTI is currently compiling the list of retailers nationwide to ensure a more organized distribution of aid. Sean?
Thank you so much for that update, Shyla Francisco.
Ayun na nga ba yung sinasabi natin about artificial shortages?
Kaya
You hear that
nga.
soundbite of that lady trying to buy 5 kilos pero 2 kilos lang daw yung nabili
And when
niya.
people hear about it, nagkakaubusan na, bumili ka na.
Yun
There's
na nga.
panic.
It triggers
Trigger
even
panic.
more panic and that's the problem.
And sabi ni House Deputy Speaker Ralph Recto, yung farm gate price ng palay, bumababa rin. I mean, just like how costs are passed on
Yes.
to consumers, ito naman, sa kanilang chain, it's passed down to farmers.
Yes.
They are offered less.
Yeah, yun yung
Kasi maraming costs
Yes.
to make up for
exactly, Gretchen,
everything.
nga yung sinasabi ng mga anti-price cap, yung mga hindi sang-ayon, no, na ang sasalo dyan talaga is yung farmers, yung producers. So, masakit talaga. Pero hindi lang
See,
yun.
and also because of the declaration of the president, this is temporary. So parang may narinig ko kanina sinabi, oh, limited edition, 41 peso, 45 peso.
May
rice."
sense na, okay, let's go get it while we can.
Yeah.
Ako, sus.
Ako, tapos sumabay pa sa
wonder
taas
yan.
presyo ng petrolyo today.
And also, other departments of the government are now adjusting their budgets to provide subsidy for these retailers.
Exactly.
So, you know,
moving
everything adjusted.
money from one pot to the next.
To punish the hoarders.
Yes.
I wonder how that works. Meanwhile, on the back of soaring prices of rice and other commodities, inflation accelerated in August. The first spike in 7 months. Headline inflation jumped to 5.3% from 4.7% in July. This figure falls within Bangko Central's 4.8 to 5.6% forecast, but is higher than the 4.9% median estimate of analysts in a Business World poll. National statistician Dennis Mapa said the uptrend was mainly due to the higher year-on-year increase in food and non-alcoholic beverages. For rice alone, inflation surged to 8.7% in August. Mapa added that the faster inflation rate was also driven by higher transport costs, which is attributed to the rising prices of gasoline and diesel.
Moving on now to other headlines, we have Finance Secretary Ben Diokno's push for a review of the free college education program getting mixed reactions from senators. Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel says that Diokno has a valid point, noting that free college education should be for students who want to go to college, have the aptitude to study in college, and who can secure a competitive slot. Senator Sonny Angara also agrees that the free tertiary education law should be revisited, citing the need for students from richer families to pay tuition fees so that more resources can be used to support students from poorer households. But for Senator Cheese Escudero, he says, I don't understand why Secretary Diokno is so stingy when it comes to investing in our country's human capital. He questions why Diokno is more liberal when it comes to measures like flood control, which the senator says has not worked.
So for this story, we wanted to speak to the people who will be most affected. So tonight we have Attorney Angelo Jimenez. He's the president of the University of the Philippines. Good evening, Prof.
Good evening, good evening.
Let me get right into it. Finance Chief Ben Diokno says the free tuition program is quote-unquote inefficient, unwieldy, and wasteful. What do you think?
Well, that is something to be determined first by the facts, no? We have to be fair to him. But first of all, we have to invest in higher education. It is critical to national survival. That's the first thing. In fairness to Secretary Diokno, he just wanted reviewed. It's been 6 years when we implemented that program. It ought to be reviewed. Number two, if he has observations about inefficiencies, that is a legitimate issue, and that has and wasteful, it has to be determined by the facts as well. Tama-tama, meron tayong EDCOM today, no? EDCOM 2, Educational Commission, and they're reviewing the entire educational system of the Philippines, a trifocal one. So this is a good time as any to look at all these things. But you see, what I see is we have to distinguish between equality and equity. No, I think that is the threshold issue here. All students, regardless of income or condition in life or capacity, gets free education. That is equality. But equity means all students who need it must be given priority. Ang question lang natin dito is that ang assumption of equality is pare-pareho lahat na can afford, no? But in a situation today, no, in a very specific context wherein there are billionaires and even millionaires in a school, side by side with students who could hardly eat and drop out even because of hunger, or even gives to their family whatever allowances they get in the matter of support for their education, ibibigay pa sa pamilya. then definitely it is an issue of equity. No? So that has to be determined, and we have to agree on it as a nation and as a policy makers. Ang tanong ko lang dito, is there unlimited education funds or funds throughout the bureaucracy to fund all national needs? Yes, there is. Now, if there is unlimited, then we have to take into consideration serious issues of equity so that at least we can really afford for students who really need this access to quality tertiary education. We have to be clear with our issues here. Wala naman sinabi si Secretary Jokno na against sa, I think, from what I heard on the red, wala naman sabing against free education. Hindi lang ako nag-agree doon yung kailangan pa ng qualifying exams. Alam nyo, years ago, meron tayong National College Entrance Examination, no? In-abolish natin yon. We have been there before. And it was found out that it prevented access to many of our people from tertiary education, opportunity to go into tertiary education. And that was why it was abolished. If Secretary Jokno wants to review that again, then I guess there is nothing that is sacred that cannot be discussed.
Attorney, yung isa sa ginamit na justification ni Secretary Diokno is a rise in dropout rate. We were discussing this last night. Hindi namin masyado maintindihan yung numbers. Which is a blanket figure that was given. Ang sabi, marami daw kasi nag-drop out. Now, naintindihan namin na nagka-COVID din. So, baka naging factor din yon. At least for UP, for the UP system, Prof., or attorney rather, anong masasabi nyo? Mataas nga ba talaga ang dropout rate? At marami nga ba talaga ang pumipila dahil nga dito sa libreng tuition?
Well, I don't know that 34% dropout rate, kung exact ba yung figure, where you got that. But that's okay. Hindi naman, UP ba yan? Actually, recently lang, sa UP Manila, 5% dropout rate. Sa 2022 bumaba nga, no? Pero umakyat ulit sa 2023. Kasi maraming estudyante na either drop out or temporarily stop schooling because of COVID. But now they're back. Ang trend namin is increasing numbers. No? So, second, ang dropout rate is a very complex and even complicated issue. It's a global phenomenon, as a matter of fact, na tumaas ang dropout rate. And I agree. If the student drop out, it's a waste. No. But then again, it cannot be attributed merely to dropout. No? It cannot be used as a single excuse because dropout rates has many causes. Unang-una, hindi pa rin talaga sufficient yung support ng mga estudyante. Alam nyo, we have students from the College of Medicine, the most difficult program to enter in the entire country, bar none. Napapahinto dahil nagugutom yung estudyante. Nakakalungkot, no? Kumpleto na yung support, no? Pero kulang pa rin. Kasi iba-iba naman talaga ang sitwasyon ng mga estudyante. Isa yan. Number two, ang palaging nakakalimutan is that yung dropout rate, minsan lalo na pahirap ng pahirap, lalo na sa higher years, no, na laging mas expensive na yan, may laboratory na yan, may mga field trips na yan. Normally, magna-dropout yan sa third and fourth year. Number two, another thing na hindi masyadong na-discuss is yung nutrition. Marami sa mga estudyante, even in their first 6 years of life, kulang sa nutrition, affected na yan sila all throughout their adult life. Maybe nakakasurvive pa sila sa primary, maybe nakakasurvive pa sila sa secondary, pero yung stunted brain growth, magmamatter yan sa tertiary na higher level na education na ang kailangan. And there could be many other reasons, no? Including na yung pandemic. No? Pero parang nakukulangan ako pag yun lang ang sasabihing reason why we should revise. No? Hindi naman sinabing abolished ni Secretary Jokno, we should revise or review it to eliminate waste and inefficiencies.
But do you see, Attorney, do you see any wastes and inefficiencies talaga with this free college tuition fee program that has been in play since 2018? May nakikita ba kayong wastage?
I see waste all over government and even the private sector. We're trying to introduce public-private sector efficiencies in government, no? But as a general rule, yes, there's waste, but to pinpoint lang a particular program and to its review because of waste, then I guess that would not be quite fair to do. No? Kasi marami talagang pwede nating efficiencies na introduce na mga efficiencies. Pero there is one thing. Free education has enabled many students who have otherwise no other opportunity to go to college, tertiary education. And that is one of its best things. Ang tanong lang talaga natin is this. We have students who are chauffeur-driven, multi-millionaires, even billionaires, I would say. And then there are students who go hungry. We cannot discuss issues on a vacuum. There is always a context. If we agree that there is limited resources, then we should at least find it reasonable to consider the idea of giving more of limited resources to those who truly need it. So the question of equity is paramount here, not just equality. No? Kasi iba-iba naman ang situation ng mga estudyante.
Attorney, if we're not to use qualifying exams, should we use background checks? How do we determine who deserves the free tuition?
You know, I have expressed my opinion on this already, you know. The test kung magaling talaga ang school, if the school is good, is if they can convert ordinary people, no, and make them special. Ibig sabihin, give them any student, and kung magaling yung school, they can make them pass professional degrees, and they can produce quality graduates. That's a test of a good school. Now, so I would really like everyone to have equal opportunity, even if you cannot find perfect equality, because that does not exist in nature and in reality. So what we are looking for is equal opportunity. Yung mga gusto talaga, I think Secretary Jokno mentioned commitment to really finish college, no? Second, yung qualification to finish this degree, to finish this course. These are very important. Rather than make it selective and come out with a qualifying exam. At I'm citing already the case of the NCEE earlier, no? National College Entrance Examination. We've been here before. We have abolished it. We have to have very cogent reason other than just saying generally na inefficient ang free education and to drastically review it. I think you agree with me na wala namang sinabing na i-abolished yun. Wala akong nakita sa any statement that says i-abolished or stopping.
For now, but I just wanted to point out that Secretary Jokno has actually been against free tuition since 2017 when he was just the budget secretary then. Sorry, not just, but he was the budget secretary then. And his point being that we can't afford it. Sabi niya, back then, hindi natin kaya yan, right? Because
Yes.
it's going to cost the government up to 100 billion pesos over X number of years. How do we fix this then?
Look, Secretary Jokno is in charge of finances. Of course, we know where he's coming from. We know his perspective. Ang perspective natin is this. We simply have to afford our students quality tertiary education, period. We just simply have to find a way to make sure that every Filipino has the opportunity to get into college. And if that means rearranging our priorities in the budget, then we simply have to do it. Education is not an option. I mean, providing higher education is not an option, particularly with the onset of a highly technical digital civilization that is already upon us. No, you cannot be very effective in the world today without higher skills. Unless, of course, tanggap natin that we will work as menials lang, no? But we are aspiring for a nation that is fully developed, technologically advanced, but at the same time, there is equity in society. We simply cannot afford not to provide access, an equal opportunity for everyone to get into education.
Attorney, you talked about nutrition, you talked about commitment. Is what is on your mind similar to yung 4Ps po na they have to maintain a certain number of like attendance or requirement to maintain their scholarship? Ganun po ba yung naiisip ninyo na to be able to sustain and to keep these students in school?
Gretchen, everyone who goes into college with free tuition, it is assumed that they must be able to comply with the academic requirements of entry and retention. A free tuition does not justify failing in school. Natural, your school will kick you out. They have rules. No? That is why ang stress ko is equal opportunity. If we provide people opportunity and they simply don't neglect it or they're not serious with it, then that is a waste and that is a legitimate issue.
So kumbaga tayo po ay dapat magtuon sa retention. Yun po
Yes,
ang ibig
retention. That's
sabihin.
right. That's right. Pero ang problema kasi sa retention, there are those who fail to be able to qualify because of, well, yung natural stunted growth na, which ang cause nun is since lack of nutrition since birth. The other one is talagang nauubusan ng pera eh. Now, we should be able to catch them. Kasi I told you, walang makapasok sa College of Medicine na mahina ang utak. That's the most difficult. That's even more difficult than my own college, the College of Law. No? I hope my co-alumnus of the College of Law will forgive me. But because of the sheer number who wants to College of Law, imagine natatanggal, hindi makatuloy dahil nagugutom. I mean, this is a very important issue, and this points glaringly to the question of equity. You remember that UP, may socialized tuition kami dati eh. That's a very good concept. Kasi it solves the problem, addresses the problem of equity directly. Ang question lang namin doon is maybe the structure itself. No? Tingin namin mataasan pa nila ang minimum bago magkaroon ng full payment. No? But in UP in particular, even those paying full tuition are not really actually paying full tuition or the actual cost of education.
Attorney, matanong ko lang, no? Sorry to cut you off. We're running out of time. Kasi si Senator Angara actually, ang suggestion niya ay pabayarin daw yung mga mas can afford na students. Option
Yes.
ba yan sa
Yes,
UP?
so that is equity. I mean, these students could afford to pay this tuition without even thinking about it.
Pero paano
these
nga
are
po yun?
millionaires.
Paano background check?
Would
Background check
would
po.
that solve? Dati nagsasubmit ng ITR, di ba, sa UP, sir?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Hindi kami sa UP, alam na namin yan. We have a check, no? We have a system of knowing the actual income, even if they have the ITR. Meron kaming random check, ha? May random check, nagbibisit kami sa mga bahay. I remember that because I was one of the proponents.
Nakakatakot
When I
pala.
was-
Kaya nga, bigla kang dalawin.
Bisita talaga sa bahay. No, minsan sobra na nga eh. To-check, bakit may stereo component? Mahal tong stereo ko. Minsan, ridiculous na nga eh. No? So, lalo na kung nakapark sa bahay mo, sa Camry, no? Parang, mahirap naman yata na 50,000 below ang income mo. So, meron kaming random check. And we are not, yung 4-piece, for example, ayan, proof na yan, no? Although may issue pa nga sa 4-piece eh. Pero, determining actual capacity is not a serious problem. We have the means, we have the capability, and we have the resources to do that. Ang question lang, I have to go back. This nation has to decide, given limited resources, for now, should we focus on absolute mechanical equality and in the process, deny other students who badly needed the support the opportunity to continue his college education? Or we should, or should we go for equity, which is given limited resources?
Yeah.
Let's just first, sa ngayon, the ideals are not conditioned. The moment na magkaroon na tayo ng equality na at least 80, maybe 70% equality. Remember, we are considered the second most unequal country in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. That's
And
right.
one of the most unequal country in the world. So you cannot discuss free education without its proper context.
Absolutely right, and you've given us a lot to think about. Here's hoping Secretary Diokno is watching, but we're going to have to leave it there for now. Thank you so much, UP President, Attorney Angelo Jimenez.
And after the break, is the Philippines ready to host not just the FIFA World Cup, but the Asean Summit again? President Bongbong Marcos believes so. That and more updates from the 43rd ASEAN Summit in Jakarta when the big story returns. You're watching the big story here on One News.
ASEAN leaders are gathered in Indonesia for a stacked summit, among them tackling China's aggressive maritime actions and the political crisis in Myanmar. This comes on the heels of the water cannon incident involving the Chinese Coast Guard and China unveiling a new standard map with an expanded claim on disputed territories. Indonesian President Joko Widodo opened the summit with a call for peaceful resolution to disputes.
ASEAN, as a large ship, also has a major responsibility towards the hundreds of millions of people who are sailing together on it. And despite having to sail through a storm, we as ASEAN leaders must ensure that this ship can continue to sail and that we have to be captains of our own ship to achieve peace.
Nalala mo si Richard Haydaran was saying, wag na tayo masyadong umasa sa ASEAN kasi yung Cambodia, yung ibang mga bansa, yung wala naman resources to fight with us.
And also, they're
territory.
conflicting ideas, right?
Ayun din. Because they get a lot of
Laos, Cambodia get a lot of investments from China, so they're not keen to, go up against Beijing, right?
Which is understandable. Pero, again, special case kasi yung sa Myanmar then as we know, mga 2 years na yung junta in power and siguro yung hard line na lang ng ASEAN is we don't want to negotiate with quote-unquote terrorists. So, di na lang sila pwede.
Well, in relation to that, that's actually why President Marcos has accepted hosting the ASEAN Summit again in 2026. Dapat 2027 pa tayo. But then, so the way the hosting goes is it's by alphabetical order, right? So LM. So at the moment it's Indonesia, IJKLM. Dapat
Myanmar.
Laos next, and then Myanmar, and then Philippines. Malaysia, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines. Except they're gonna skip Myanmar this time around. So we're gonna jump to Philippines, and we're looking at the video of the ASEAN heads of state up on
Is it
stage
time
doing
for
the family photo that
the
their
handshake?
favorite, the cross handshake, exactly.
President Marcos talked about protection of migrant workers, and
Climate change as well.
Yes, climate change as well.
Also, food security. He raised the issue of food security. He fell short of asking, the countries to lay down do away with protectionist efforts, right? But he stopped short of asking them to sell us more rice, for instance. But he did raise the issue of food security and asked that the ASEAN bloc cooperate as one entity to address that issue. Climate change, food security,
Human
all
trafficking
huge
also.
issues at the moment,
And OFW concerns. Right, so kakastart pa lang ng ASEAN Summit. So I'm sure we'll have more updates as the event unfolds. Meantime, balik muna tayo sa issues natin dito sa Pilipinas. That cyclist in the viral road rage incident in Quezon City some weeks ago has finally come face-to-face with the ex-cop who cocked a gun at him back in August. That happened at a Senate hearing earlier today. So we finally have the cyclist's name, and it is Alan Bandiola. And here is how Alan recalls the incident.
Sabi ko na, siguro nakatatlong ko sa kanya po, pokpok na gano'n sa gilid. Kasi para makot ko po yung attention niya na, nagigit-git mo na ako. So doon po, nandun na po kami sa kanto ng Kitanlad, doon na po nangyari, nabangga ko na yung gilid ng kotse niya kasi alanganin na po, talagang padiretso na po ako eh. So ang nangyari po doon, lumabas na po si Mr. Gonzales, si Ginoong Gonzales, tapos yun nga po, bigla niya akong sinapok nasa lubong ko rin ng helmet. Normal lang naman po siguro sa atin na kahit sino pong sapukin sa atin, magre-react po talaga. So doon na po nangyari, kinasaan niya ako ng baril.
Now that ex-cop Wilfredo Gonzales insists that Bandiola was wearing gloves with hard knuckles, which the cyclist supposedly used to scratch his car. Gonzales also claimed that Bandiola cursed at him. But at least on the footage that went viral of that incident, you can see that the cyclist was not wearing gloves during the altercation, something that senators likewise pointed out.
Turin itong picture na ito na nagsasabi na wala siyang gloves. Alam mo, Mr. Gonzales, kahit anong sabihin mo, ang tao na nanonood, sabihin nila na dati kang pulis. Kaya naman kung palagi na lang sabi ng mga pulis sinungaling.
Yung kanan po niyang kamay, nakikwantes po na makikita naman po ng mga pulis eh.
Yung kanang kamay, yung kanang kamay niya, wala ring gloves. Bare hands.
Tinatanggal niya po nung dumating na po yung mobile.
Very clear dito. Wala siyang hawak, wala siyang gloves talaga. Magbisiklita ka daw sa hard knuckle hindi mo man kailangan yan sa bisikleta. Pag-motor yan.
Ang sinasabi ko lang po, Your Honor, yung tunay po na pangyayari. Kasi biktima rin ako rito eh. Mamatay man po ang buong pamilya ko. Hindi po
may damay pamilya mo sa kasinungalingan mo.
In the end, Gonzalez admitted that he did assault the cyclist and said that he regrets his actions. But Gonzalez maintained that he was acting in self-defense.
Humingi po ako ng tawad sa parte pong yung pambabato ko at yung pagbunod ko at yung pagkasa ko. Humingi po ako ng tawad sa lahat. Hindi lang po sa kanya o sa lahat po sa inyo. Kasalanan ko po yun, nabigla po ako eh. Kasi ang isip ko po noon, idepensa ko yung sarili ko dahil hindi naman ako ganun kalakas eh. Galing ako sa spine operation eh.
Huwag nyo na pong i-justify, sir. Okay na po yung na humingi po kayo ng apology. Okay na po, boss. Tapusin na po natin doon kasi lalaki po. Parang iwan po natin sa mga kababayan natin, hindi talaga proper yun na ikaw gun owner, lalapas mo yung baril mo, ay, pambihira.
From gun owner, Senator Robin Padilla.
Oo nga, from one gun owner to the other.
But alam mo, pag siklista kasi, usually kasi meron ka talagang gloves.
With hard knuckles talaga?
No!
For
It's
grip.
like gloves lang, for grip.
For grip.
Okay.
So kung meron man, yun lang yun. At saka sinabi niya na inamin naman ng siklista na ginanon daw niya yung sasakyan. Kasi pag gano'n na padiretso.
Kasi tatamaan na siya.
Tatamaan na siya. So there was no other way.
So that's what triggered the cop.
Yeah.
Yun.
Siguro nainis siya ginanon yung kotse niya. Pero honestly, I've done that. Lalo na pag nasa pedestrian lane ako, malakas yung loob ko. Medyo, di naman malakas.
With gloves then,
wala akong gloves. Pero ginaganon ko lang
Siguro
kasi...
nagulat ko si Wilfred.
Well, if you have anger management problems, talagang anything will trigger you, right? So
But I think
even
yun
if it
nga,
was a
no?
light tap.
Yung takeaway natin from those clips that we watched is that itong hearing na ito ng Senado, it's an aid of legislation. So I think the senators are looking to impose heavier fines on road rage incidents. And that's why.
But at the moment, Bandiola still does not want to file charges.
Yes. Never that. Kahit anong magyari, no, ayaw na talaga niya mag-file ng charges. All right. Time for another break. Sinesenyosan na ako. Right after that, this luxury condo in Cebu City has been causing quite a stir online, though perhaps not for what its developer meant for it to be. We'll be speaking with Monteraza's project engineer, Slater Young, when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
You're still watching Big Story here on One News. A real estate project in Cebu City recently made headlines over environmental concerns. Some say it's a groundbreaking project in the literal sense of the word, but its developers insist that it's eco-friendly and sustainable. To talk about this, we have with us on the show Monteraza's project engineer and content creator, Slater Young. Slater, good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Good evening, guys.
Uy,
Thank you for
Slater,
having me.
ano na naman itong kaguluhang kinasangkutan mo? Lagi ka na lang nasa headlines, viral.
Yeah,
Oo nga.
Dami natin ganap.
So, I know you said that sinikot mo na technically on social media, no, the controversy over this. And I know you said you've got your team is made up of architects, engineers, sustainability experts, and so on and so forth. But my first question to you is, did you actually do an impact assessment before you launched the project?
Yes. Lahat ng before you can even get to the point that we are now, dapat kumpleto yun lahat. And so we spent, I think people think that this was medyo madali lang gawin, but this was actually 3 years in the making of a lot of hard work, a lot of effort just to get to this point wherein we're announcing it na.
Alright, Slater, backtrack lang muna tayo ng konti, no? Nagkaroon kasi ng backlash, so nakita ko nga to actually sa feed ko. Sabi ko, oy, ang ganda naman nung mga renders. 'Di ba? Parang Greece. Pero naisip ko lang din because recently nasangkot ka sa isang issue. Do you think spin-off lang to? Yung galit against you, all the hate that you got, you think it's just a spin-off from that previous issue?
No, I don't think so. This one naman, just like I said in my statement earlier, I really feel like I understand where the comments are coming from, because these are the same comments that I raised when sinimula namin yung mga itong project na to. So I understand talaga kung saan sila nanggaling.
And you've gotten permits for this?
Yes, kumpleto na tayo sa mga permits.
And the area was not zoned as agricultural or farmland or forest land? It's strictly zoned as residential?
I think that's the biggest parang misconception online, that this is actually a forest. This is a foot of the mountain. So Monteraza's, the Cebu, or Cebu in general, has ang daming mountains sa Cebu. And this is just one small portion at the foot of the mountain. The location is really, really close to the city. If you walk from the site mismo going down, it's about 3 minutes walk to the next jeepney stop. So it's located in Barangay Guadalupe, which is the biggest residential barangay in Cebu City. So zoning natin is residential. There's no forest in the area. There's vegetation, but hindi siya forest.
Okay, kung siguro ipi-place natin siya dito sa Metro Manila, would you liken it to Antipolo? Parang ganun ba kalapit sa city?
Yes, but even closer
Mas malapit
to
pa.
the city.
Mas malapit pa.
Sobrang lapit.
Wait,
Yeah.
speaking of understanding people's outrage online, I do understand it as well, because if you take a look at the project, it seems like you carved into the mountain. So,
Yes.
and given the country's experience with landslides in Baguio and Benguet area, pati dyan sa Cebu, nagkaroon din noong 2011. 2011 nung ano bang taon yun?
2021.
Nagkaroon ng landslide din dyan. Oo. How would you alleviate people's concerns?
Yeah, I think may ano din ako doon na pag-present ko, yung scale model namin, it's so big and it's so huge that it feels like as if it was the entire mountain and yung buong development nandun sa mountain. This is actually a product of a lot of studies just to get to this point. So what you're seeing right now, the renders that you're seeing on screen, is years and years of hard work and studies of soil tests, flooding tests, environmental impact assessments. All of this, we've worked it out from the very beginning.
What exactly did you find out through all those impact assessments about the topography of that place, that area, and what were you most concerned with?
Yeah, so my initial concern was similar to what everybody was thinking, was anong stability ng soil dito? Would this project be actually possible to do it there? So we did a few tests. Even before we decided to design it, test tayo muna. So we did boring tests, and several geologists, we've tapped 3 already and we're tapping even more now, to assess kung ano ba talaga yung soil profile. And what we found out is that's why it's possible to do this, because yung soil profile natin is very, very hard limestone, that the classification is rock, yung nasa test natin. So with that, confident kami to move forward to the next step.
Does that make it resilient to earthquakes?
Yes, definitely it helps with the earthquakes. It's actually more efficient and more earthquake resilient to design it like this, because instead of, imagine if this project is about 20 stories. So what is more resilient is it a tower that is 20 stories high, or yung tower na it's along the grade line where at any given point it's a shorter building.
Right, so shorter
that's
slope.
the analysis behind that.
Actually, Slater, this property, when I first saw it, yes, I did hear your little annotation. It does look like the Manawi Rice Terraces. Pero pag taga dito ka, no, sa Luzon, sanay ka, may ganyan sa Tagaytay Highlands, yung Bellevue Tower. Di ba? Parang ganun-ganun din siya. And
Yes.
I think the inspiration for that was not the Manawi Rice Terraces, but a resort in Greece. Did you also study, like, I don't know, the architecture and engineering structural of that hotel, and also maybe of Bellevue, and how, it has performed over time kasi medyo luma na rin siya.
Bellevue, we studied Bellevue. Itong sa Greece, it's something new to us. We actually reached out to the architects, kinausap namin with all this, and they were actually very, very supportive of us. Like, he even said na, we hope to work with you in the future because parang we're doing good work now. So it was actually heartwarming to hear that from them. But also, I just want to reiterate na hindi kami yung nag-iimbento ng terraces design. Itong terraces design has been all around the world, much longer than Bellevue, much longer than yung Greece na project. This is how designers address challenging and the actual site conditions, kung paano to be as efficient, to lessen the impact. So these are all the decisions that most people, most designers, given the same problem to solve, parang aabot tayo sa similar solutions.
You said you wanted the project to be as sustainable as possible, and I think we have that on tape. Let's roll it.
We want it to be architecturally forward, something that Cebu or the Philippines has never seen before. Because we're building on a mountainside, we want the project to be as sustainable as possible.
Tingnan natin ngayon, no? Kung Banawi Rice Terraces yung konsepto. How then do you take care of the irrigation, the water management, waste management systems?
And how much, in terms of like real sustainability measures, right? Like how much rainwater can it actually collect? Do you know that at this point?
Are you gonna be a green building? Is it LEED certified?
We're talking to mga certification experts right now. So that's another level that we're doing just so that we can level up our game, essentially. So with the concerns about rainwater and everything, this is para lang yung nagde-design ka for an earthquake. You have maximum historical data of the Philippines, ano yung typical earthquake natin. So we can design with that. So rainwater is the same. We have a density of rain falling in a specific area. You calculate that, meron kang volume. So ang ginawa namin there, from the design perspective, is to put it into a rainwater tank down below. And ito yung sinabi ko sa video, that we are using that rainwater to irrigate the whole system, so that hindi na tayo nagsispend ng water pa to irrigate everything. And as an added safety measure, kung sabihin natin sobrang lakas ng ulan, hindi tayo na ready. So sa amin, meron na yung another layer which we call a detention pond. So a detention pond is basically a big empty pond, just so that if in case the rainwater hindi kinaya, it goes somewhere else and it stays there until it slowly.
I think flooding is also a concern in Cebu. Meron dito nag-comment sa YouTube mo, binabasa ko. Na ano ito, I am from Cebu and even without your project, grabe na yung baha dito.
Especially in Guadalupe,
Yeah.
where the project is, right?
Oh, what can you say about that?
So that's why we're doing our part also to mitigate that. So
Hindi
that
mapupunta
tayo
yung tubig doon sa ano?
Meron siyang containment pa. Yun, no? That's what it's for,
Yeah,
the
it's called
detention area.
detention
So,
pond.
basically, lahat ng tubig, baha na na-generate ng project, mapupunta doon sa isang parang malaking swimming pool or reservoir. Anong magyayari doon sa tubig later? Yun ba yung gagamitin pandilig? Do you plan to expand and maybe treat that water so you can use it for the property?
So there's several ways to go about it. One is sakto yun na you treat it and you reuse it. But this is more of an emergency measure na parang an added safety net. So it goes there, it's an empty pond. So pagdating doon, it's slowly over time na if nagre-rain, di ba, napupuno siya and then it slowly dries up. To be perfectly honest, I'm not the one designing this. Ang dami namin behind the scenes. I can speak about it in general terms. Parang, but there's specific fields for just that. There's specific fields for the mechanical. There's even specific fields just for the soil. Iba din naman yung si earthquake. Iba din yung sa the rainwater irrigation. So there's a whole big team behind me.
Solar
And
power.
think of me
Solar
Ano yun?
power, are you also using that here?
Yes, the biggest advantage of being able to work with the mountain instead of just making it vertical is pag vertical tayo, yung roof area natin maliit lang, di ba? But by spreading it out across the mountain, we are able to put up more solar power, solar panels. So this hindi naman natin entirely solar powered, but it will be supplemented by a significant portion of solar power.
Slater, quick question na lang. Kailan, nag-start na ba to? Nag-start na ba kayo sa digging, no? Sa grading? And ilang units siya? And ma-afford ko ba to? Kasi parang maganda siya eh.
Yeah, so what we're doing right now is we understand talaga. I understand where people are coming from because yun nga din yung mga concerns ko dati. So when may mga nag-comment about this, what we promised everyone is we'll do another layer. We'll do another layer of talking to experts, environmental advocates, so that sigurado kami on what we're about to do is as good a design as we can possibly get it.
Ito nakikita namin yung photo sa screen. Mukhang nasimulan na, no?
This is a different project. This is my project. This is a housing project that we're doing.
Hindi
there.
ito yun.
Yeah.
So the rise at this project that we're talking about, hindi pa nasisimulan?
Yeah, hindi pa. We haven't started it because we want to make sure everything is in order pa.
Oh, magkano ba, sabi ni Sean?
Well, actually,
At kailan ang pre-selling?
hold on. Related to that, actually, I think one of the other reasons that this project has caught a lot of flack is because people feel it's an elitist project, right? So, in essence, only the people who can afford it will benefit.
Totoo yun.
But everyone else bears the risks of more environmental damage, of the risk of flooding, of the risk of landslides, and so on and so forth. So, what would you say to that?
So when we're talking about community building and like yung sustainability, we take into consideration everyone around the community. So not just the people that live in the condos, but the stakeholders of the entire area itself. So that's why we wanted this to look like what it is, to design it the way it is, because right across it would be a public space. There would be a public playground. We wanted to be a place wherein, ay, punta tayo sa Cebu, tingnan natin yung project na yun, parang ang ganda. We wanted to be able to move, parang our contribution to move architecture forward here in the Philippines, our very small contribution. So that was the whole thinking and concept behind this talaga. So,
And then to Gretchen's question about the price, I think I saw an ad that said 2-bedroom units start at 56 million, tama ba?
The 3-bedroom starts at 56 million.
Wow.
If you look at it
That
from
is
that
pricey.
perspective, it is pricey, yes, definitely. But because of the design and the sizes of what we're providing. So we're providing for yung 56 million would be around 300 square meters.
How's your
So
pre-selling
really-
going?
Nag-pre-selling na ba? Slater, how is it going if it has
Yeah,
started?
we're very, very happy with the way it's going. People are actually very supportive. So, yeah, I'm fairly happy with the way it's going.
Wala bang epekto itong pagka-viral nung
Ah,
property ninyo? Hindi ba medyo
Hopefully,
nag-alangan mga
naman.
tao?
Yeah. With developments like this kasi, even with big projects, there are certain things that we need to do to be able to contribute back to society. Like for example, when you build a project like this, meron tong socialized housing aspect that is built into this. So you have to actually put money into an escrow account so that you promise the government that you will build socialized housing.
Will you build it, Slater? Because a lot of developers, they kind of conveniently forget after parking the cash in escrow.
Yeah,
Will
so
you
if
promise
hindi
to build the socialized component?
Isa to sa pinakamagandang ginawa namin sa Monterazas to Cebu is we actually committed like I think right now can't be very accurate, but about 3 hectares of land to informal settlers. So that's our way of mitigating that also and helping the community out. So there are a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes to just make this as inclusive as possible within the bounds of economics. Sabihin na lang natin.
Well, I certainly hope it looks as nice as the rice, the whole entire development.
We're going to check back in with you to see how this project is going later on this year, I guess. Thank you for joining us tonight.
From Cebu, yeah.
Yeah, live from Cebu, civil engineer and content creator Slater Young. Thanks so much for your time.
And now on to sports. From 32 teams down to 8, the 2023 FIFA World Cup begins its final phase of the tournament with the quarterfinal match between Lithuania and Serbia. Just a few days after their impressive win over Team USA, Lithuania have been booted out of the tournament after a dominating performance by Serbia 87-68. Led by Atlanta Hawks star Bogdan Bogdanovic, Serbia took control of the game from the second quarter and never allowed their lead to slip. Up next for the Serbians will be the winner of Canada versus Slovenia. Meanwhile, for the second FIBA match tonight, Team USA and Italy are currently going at it at the Mall of Asia Arena. The Americans will be hungry to bounce back after losing the last game of the second round to Lithuania. Meanwhile, Italy heads to the quarterfinal after topping Group I in the second round. The Italians have been unbeaten after losing their first game of the tournament to the Dominican Republic, and it looks like they are peaking at the right time.
Ayan na nga yung game, oh. Nakikita natin, so second quarter, we have just about under 7 minutes left. Italy with 16 points and Team USA with 28 points. Siguro, Gretch, na yung talo ng USA over the weekend ay talagang tinry nila bawiin.
I was reading about it. Sabi nung mga critics na they were, because of that loss, they were grouped with an easier parang bracket.
Easier.
So it helps.
Baka strategy
But everyone's
siya.
kind of
Hindi naman
peaking.
gano'n. Siyempre, ayaw naman nila na.
All right, we'll let everybody go and tune in and watch
Pero
the rest of the game now.
reminder lang, no, the FIBA World Cup is only until this weekend.
Yes.
The last day is on
September 10.
Sunday. So you
Catch
better
the games.
watch. Yes.
All right, that's it for the show tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.